shoot American dippers. There's been a couple in the stream and they stay pretty tight, and they're eating little fry from the salmon that spawned last year or so. And I don't know if you've ever seen an American dipper, but they're super cool little birds. They don't migrate. They can deal with super cold temperatures. And they're just constantly moving, which is probably a lot of the ways that they keep warm. But they'll be in this frigid, icy cold water catching fish, and it's just cool to see the water when they come up out of the water, and that water just falls off of them and the feathers don't get wet. It's pretty awesome. All right, so according to my phone, it's 23 degrees. Got some melt going on over here, so that's kind of cool. It is melting. The temperature's kind of cold. Like I said earlier, I'm wearing my puffy pants and puffy coat and several layers, and not too bad when you're out moving around, but man, when you're just sitting here, it gets pretty chilly. So the dipper's been going back and forth. Got him up high on the river, got him about midway here, and then got him down low. Right in the middle here, it's the prettiest. There's all kinds of moss and the icicles, and it's dripping or melting, which is kind of cool. But he really likes that area down low because it's wide open and there's tons of fish in there. So he's just eating like crazy. She, I keep saying he. Who knows what it is? I can't tell the difference. And I don't know if you can tell the difference. The males and females both look pretty similar. So it's not often you see these little dudes just taking a break. Most everyone I've ever seen has been out just constantly working and fishing and bobbing up and down. But I think there's so much food in here that this little guy can just afford to take a break. And right now he's just posted up with one leg up inside the feathers and the other leg and foot just perched, and he's right on the edge of the creek. Beautiful. Well, as you can see, it started snowing pretty good here. Can't see across the bay anymore. The tide's moving in, so I think we're gonna move on out of here because there's only one exit point and it gets covered with water when that tide rolls in. Eric and I have made it down to one of our favorite bear spots. We come here every year. Well, what we thought we'd do is just show you a little bit about what cameras we're using, and then the setup and what we've been shooting. So let's just start with Eric's camera.
Now I've been shooting the Sony FX6. I used to always shoot with my 200 to 600 lens, but you know, this landscape, the wide angle, so I'm trying out the Tamron 50 to 400 right now to try and get wider shots, which I've liked a lot. I might change over to the 60 to 600 just to have a little bit more zoom on the long end, since this is only shoots 4K and I can't really crop in. But I've mounted the side grip onto an extension arm so that I can use my remote, have my zoom magnification buttons, I can navigate the menu and record, and just using the factory monitor. It's working so far. I might upgrade, either get an EVF or a bigger monitor, but so far it allows, if I want to use autofocus to touchscreen, autofocus tracking, but I'm trying to do more manual just because I don't trust it fully. In certain circumstances it works. And then I got the Cinclus Flowtech with the 100mm bowl and the active head that makes it nice and quick so I can get down low, and the leveling's nice and and fast. So if I need to move around quick, it works well. So far, so good.
All right, so that's his setup. I'm rocking a similar system to what I've always used in some of the other videos that we've done. So I'm just using my typical setup. I use the Raptor S35 Super 35 with the 60 to 600 Sigma, which I've always used. Manual focus 100%. Set up on rails, and that's pretty much it. My tripod head is probably older than most of you people watching the video, but I use it because it's nice and heavy, and it just makes it for a much smoother operation. You got to have heavy if you're going to shoot good video, just to keep the shake to a minimum. The other thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to get some underwater stuff, and we're pretty much using GoPros for that right now. Eric's got a GoPro that we were trying just for different shots of just the overall scene, and then I have a half dome for the GoPro, which is kind of cool. We tried it all day yesterday, and it was
In and out shots.
oh, different bear.
We got a bear coming. Alright, well, after our interruption there.
Pretty amazing. I mean, I'm just sitting here talking about, I think, what we were going to shoot in the GoPros and stuff, and I look up and there's a bear walking down this log, and we actually haven't seen that bear yet, so it was a really pretty bear. It's the kind of bear you want, and it was a bear that was pretty tolerant with us, so it caught, what, 3 or 4 or 5 fish, and then it went off into the trees, and it'll probably come back in the next, I don't know, who knows, 20, 30, 40 minutes. So anyway, the things that we're trying to shoot here, obviously the fish, because that's a big part of the story, the gulls, the crows, there's all kinds of different birds, so whatever birds we can pick up. We want salmon trying to run up the stream, but we also want to get salmon underwater, so if we can get that, that's cool. And then obviously the bears, which are the main reason we're here. So I think we've accomplished that over the last 3 or 4 days. We've had bears every day, but a good example was last night. We sat here for what, 3 or 4 hours, and that produced 0. No, we had one in the early, right?
Yeah, the one just walked along the ridge line, never really came down into the creek.
Where we're shooting is completely tide dependent, so we have to show up at low tide, which is the best for the bears too, because they can catch the fish. But where we're sitting right now is underwater at high tide, so you really can't do much work. I mean, you can still come down here, and the tide doesn't go all the way up to the waterfall, so the bears can still fish, but it's just more convenient to be down here for the bears and for us at low tide. We're still playing with the underwater. The underwater's tough because you just don't know. Especially with the dome, you can't see what you're shooting, so it's a 100% guess. Like a lot of times you might get a cool shot, but the horizon's not straight. If you give it enough time, then you'll get an opportunity to try things over and over and over. There's a lot of that trial and error and playing, and you learn stuff every day, and then you apply what you learned that day to the next day. So by the end of this, we should end up with some pretty cool footage, but it's a pretty long process.
Piece by piece. Just trying to figure out all the different shots to put together to really make this story. You know, we've been watching the salmon, a lot of downtime sitting here, staring off into nature and trying to pick up bits of information. And, you know, we've seen all the birds that have been feeding on the salmon carcasses. There's the glaucous wing gulls are the majority that you're probably hearing. A few short-billed gulls have come through. The black-legged kittiwakes will come in and kind of hover and grab eggs. The Stellar's jays are feeding like crazy, lots of young that are fledged now and begging for food. The crows, spotted sandpipers have been coming through and grabbing flies off of all the dead carcasses. Those are pretty fun shots that I'm sure we'll use. I've enjoyed those a lot. And then the dippers use the creek and fly up to the waterfall, probably nesting up there. There's just a lot of different components of uses for the salmon. So it's pretty cool to get to see it all just from being in one spot sitting for days, and you really start to pick up little bits of information that are pretty critical to really telling the true story versus just seeing bears run down and grab a salmon.
Yesterday afternoon, well actually both afternoons, you've spent a lot of time trying to do backlit salmon, like coming up a really shallow part of the stream.
Oh yeah.
How's that working out, and what's your goal there? What are you trying to accomplish?
I just think there's a right where the tide line is. This is a pretty negative tide, so the tide's way out today. But there's a nice little incline or drop where the salmon have been charging up. But it's perfect because the water is really shallow and there's some really nice slick river rocks in there. And so the salmon will come shooting up the deeper water, and they hit that and they're just barely in the water, just an inch or two, and shooting across. But I like having the backlight because it was really nice saturated colors in the back, but you get this big contrast to the black and white, the silhouette of the salmon. Hopefully get some nice big males, the pink humpies. You'll see that shooting through in the water, spraying off just how much power just the tip of their tail hitting, shooting up. Or they will hit a rock and they'll fall on their sides and they'll have to flip their bodies upright and then they take off, which is really neat behavior. Just to see the challenges that these things face to shoot up these creeks. And this year, we haven't had a lot of rain, so this is really low. There's been some side channels that we'd usually see salmon able to just kind of sit and rest off to the side, and this is completely dry. There's a lot of carcasses just kind of getting stuck here, both from the bears and the gulls pulling them out, but trying to really show this thin water shooting up through there. So hopefully those turn out good.
Little update. I was able to sneak a GoPro under some rocks. It looks completely fake, but I was able to sneak that in there. So we may be getting some close-up GoPro footage of this eagle munching on this otter. So we'll see. Eagle's still sitting on that carcass. Oh goodness, we're getting close to being done. We've got all our shots. So we're gonna just put our stuff away and hope that the eagle flies off in that time. We don't want to push him. If we have to leave it and come back later, we'll do that too, but we'd like to just get it now, and we got a few hours before sunset. We've kind of got all the shots. We're on a rocky area, and there's no leading lines, there's no vistas, there's no mountains behind him, there's nothing. Actually, up there, there's a construction site for, you might be able to see it back here, the boats. So it's a working boat yard, so. Let's see, we've been walking the beach at Homer. I got the footage we talked about earlier of that eagle. I missed the takeoff because battery 1 ran out and it went crazy and it just froze at 1/1000 on the video. I should have just hit record. That's the lesson here. Should have just hit record, shutter be damned, but I didn't do that, and I was like trying to fiddle and change everything and it flew off. So lesson learned there. There's eagles everywhere. We have immature eagles over here and right here. There's a mature eagle down on the dock, and they're eating stuff, and so we're getting them going back and forth. And I got one, oh, you can see right there. Got a mature chasing the immature. And it's awesome. What's not to love about this, right? Hold on, I gotta get this.
So I see that you have a new look that you're working on.
Well, this is the modified GoPro Sony look. You know, only Sony shooters with GoPros can do this. Today we were brought out here by eagles, and when you're photographing birds in flight, you need fast shutter speed and open it up on the aperture side to increase your depth of field. Wear your hat a little higher and throw a GoPro on there, because you got to capture you capturing the moment.